Hey, what's up? This is AV.KID. I had a lot of people ask me recently about my layout and kind of my workflow, how I approach a project, and all that good stuff. Especially after the kind of Rome trip to LPM, which was absolutely amazing. So I figured I'd make a short screen capture video about how I work, how I approach a project, what my kind of workflow is. So yeah, let's check it out. Okay, so here we are at my desktop, my nice big AVkid logo there. So there we go, it popped up very quickly actually. While I was in Rome, I actually was using the original version of VDMX. I had no idea the beta existed until Dave Lublin and Mr. Ray gave it to me from VidVox, and it was very kind of him. So yeah, here it is. Here's my layout. If you don't know what VDMX is, basically it's a VJ program where you can design your own layout, and you know, let me just unlock this here. They've popped up. That sort of stuff annoys me. It's a VJ program where you can basically design your layout, design your project, how many layers, how many bins, which is absolutely amazing because every time I actually have a particularly big project, I'll just design a new project, and it helps you to approach projects and think of them in different ways and doing different things. This is what I had for Rome, or else it's a rebuilt version because I was working on the old version of VDMX in Rome at LPM. So let me just start off from the top. Basically, I've got 5 real layers in there. I've got my bug here, which is the AV logo in the middle, and I've got my I've got 2 what I call our underlay layers. And let me just pop up to maybe UL1 here, and that's a left video and a right video. I've got an effect on them right now. So I've got underlay left, which is layer 1, underlay right, which is layer 2. And then I've got 2 overlay layers. These will generally be motion graphics, triangles. I really like primitive shapes. So let's just maybe launch these 2 and pull up that fader. So there's overlay 1 and overlay 2. So essentially it's just 2 layers broken down to 2 halves. I've also got a mirror effect, which is very useful. You can see that being controlled up here. So that's a very basic overview of my layout. I've got my bins. So basically I've got 4 bins, so I can see all the footage I need at once. I've got bin 1, bin 2, bin 3, and bin 4, so I don't have to click buttons and change layers. I like having everything where I can see it. Same thing again, I've got my composition settings for each bin underneath the bin itself, for composition settings for each layer. Same thing again with layer controls and previews. So I find it's a very nice setup. It might look intimidating, but actually when you know how to use it, it's very, very linear. It's very easily approachable, and you can see everything without looking at the screen, the projector that is. So then what I've done after all that, I actually basically have 2 control panels. So besides seeing what's playing, I'll put something up for the laugh. Besides seeing what's playing, I have 2 effects, 2 control surfaces. One is for my underlay video, one's for my overlay video. And these control things like the mirror, dual eject, which would really save me a lot of power on my CPU. The one on the right actually hasn't been mapped yet. This is all quite basic. I've just been building it. So let me tell you a little bit about how I approach a project. Basically, I am an animator. I am not a person who uses Quartz. I'd love to. The lovely Chikinda is convincing me every day to get into it. It's an amazing program, I'm sure. But my background is in television and sport and animation. So what I do is I design maybe about 200 animated elements. These are very basic elements, moving lines, lines falling down, skulls, triangles or tracer objects, all that cool stuff. And we've got 2 layers of those. And I find when I have so many overlay elements, and then underlay is generally video, that I can really create anything I really want. And because it's video playback, it feels like it's a lot. It feels like it's a lot nicer on the CPU. I could be wrong. So yeah, VDMX is amazing the way you can actually link all of these waveforms and oscillators to effects as well. So it's not set up right now, but when it's fully set up, for example, I would have this maybe sawtooth oscillator. The rate of that would control the rate of a flash. So whenever there's kind of a big drop in a song, I'd have kind of a strobe light effect, which is like very useful, very handy, and it really goes down well. So let me take you through my effects that I use. Basically, on the right-hand side on overlay, they're not all mapped yet, but I can show you these here. Basically, I can view them at 2 points. See what I was saying about things looking hardcore, but not actually being so hardcore. Now, these overlay effects, or these underlay effects on the left, oddly enough, actually affect the overlay layer. Now, I've applied a thing called cube mapping. It's not that altogether an astounding effect. It basically makes a cube out of footage and gives you some background footage as well. And I found what I'd done was, if I go down here to the actual cube map, it needs a video input. I turned the video input into an actual object that it's affecting. So if I apply it here, it actually traces the object as it goes, which I found extremely interesting. And if I say automate VDMX when I'm DJing or whatever, basically I can't use it. It's an unbelievably good effect because it makes transitions very seamless because it traces. Same thing again, I've got, as you can see, I have 3 cube mappings. And basically the other 2 versions are cube mappings, the same effect, but with an RGB channel shift on them. And what that does, and I don't know the technical aspects, but it actually drags the trace away, which I find amazing. I really don't understand how it works. So if we go into my channel shift there, we can see, you know, I can send the greens off to the right or the left, and if you get it very subtle, you can kind of have them fading off in a lovely even white. Same thing again, it's just a kind of a different version of it. And this stuff basically goes down really well with, you know, certain effects. The possibilities are infinite. If I apply a mirror here, yeah, I mean, you could look at that for hours. I think it looks really beautiful. And you would have seen a lot of this at the LPM performance that I've done. It's a great way of not reusing footage per se, but it's a great way of interpreting footage and using it. So as I was saying, obviously the bottom video layers are video. You play cube mapping, get a trace on there. Just very interesting stuff. And then I've got my overlay layers, so I'm gonna pull down my underlays. I don't use the underlay video too much. I've got a bit of a fade on them, so it's not very harsh, the movement or when I pull them off. So with my overlay layers, they'd usually be controlled here, but that's not quite set up yet. So I go to my, I've got my chroma mask, so they obviously, you know, they're keyed out because I'm not using a video codec with an alpha channel. It's something about it just not working. I work in a photo JPEG format. I've got my hue adjust because everything was designed yellow, but there was actually a problem with the mixer in Rome, which made everything orange, and I really like that a lot more. Monochrome again to help with color. I've got this parallelogram. Yeah, it's kind of a nice effect. I wouldn't use it too much. It works well with primitives, big objects. Not really with kind of, you know, stuff like, let's say this, that moves really fast. It's a bit crazy. The forever loved kaleidoscope. I just adore that effect. I mean, I could watch that all day. And the kind of a recent one I'm using is Pixelate, which I really like. So that's the very, very bare bones of how I work. I pre-produce a lot of content, one style. See, I'm a very big style freak. I like knowing that one person has made this is one person's work. I love VJing and visual arts. It's absolutely amazing. But one thing I don't think it lacks, but I like, with my background in TV and film, or not film, TV and sport and motion graphics, is that there has to be a style, a consistency, and that's a really big thing for me. And I think if you have a good, consistent style, no matter what it looks like, it will just ooze professionalism. And that's one thing I try very hard, is to be very, not that I don't want to be artistic, but I like to be professional. I like to look, my stuff to look good, well made. So if I ever do big concerts or whatever, which I don't, it'll look like someone who's meant to be there is there. I really don't like when I go to concerts and see stuff. You know, the guy was obviously a friend of the international DJ, and he's playing GIFs on screen. I won't mention any names, but I've seen that happen before, and it's just kind of like,
In order for this industry to grow, there needs to be quality control, just like anything else. I'm also a rollerblader, and there needs to be quality control in the videos made, and the commercial and advertising, everything. So I'll stop going on a rant, but this is basically my setup. I've got my audio analysis and stuff, and I hope it gave you a little bit of an insight into how I work things. And as I said, I always change my projects, so feel free to interpret this, use as your own. And probably next week I'll have another one again. So thanks very much for your time, and I'm AV Kid. You can contact me or whatever. See you later.